Attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Trust Your Gut and Banish Food Sensitivities. My name is Angela, and I wanted to welcome you and thank you for joining me. So without further ado, we'll get started. A little bit about me. Like I said, my name is Angela. I'm a registered nurse and an integrative nutrition health coach. I'm also a massage therapist and a yoga instructor. So today I'm going to share with you my story about food sensitivities, leaky gut, and stress, and how I started to heal. So my story, I would say it started about 4 years ago in nursing school. I think the stress really took a toll on me. I had some digestive issues before that, but it really came on strongly during school. I would have bouts of nausea and vomiting. I was just sick a lot. I missed some school, but I was a good student. I was determined, and I just barreled on through. So that last semester of nursing school, I found myself in the ER twice. Neither were digestive issues, but definitely big red flags that my health just was not in proper function. And I did find out I had to have surgery at the end of school, so that was quite devastating for me. Needless to say, after that surgery, my digestion was a wreck. I had a lot of antibiotics I needed to be on, and I think that just really took a toll on my health. I was still having the nausea and vomiting, just bouts here and there. I found out I had IBS. And I just really needed to embark on a healing journey then. I looked up the elimination diet, which we're going to talk about today. I did look it up then, and I started my research on the healing diet and healing the gut. But honestly, I just wasn't ready for that type of protocol. I just finished nursing school, and I just wanted to move on. So I started working and had this mental attitude of just do it, just start, just do it. My digestion did get worse. I think with the stress and the intense work, it just slowly got worse and worse. So a year and a half into nursing school, there's a picture of my kitty cat. We had a year and a half into working, me and my kitty cat had a lot in common. We laid around a lot because I got hit with this horribly debilitating fatigue. It was nothing I'd ever experienced before. I missed a lot of work and went around to many different doctors, got many different tests done. They all came back negative. So I wasn't sure what was going on, but I knew that I had to correct my digestion. And with all the research that I did, I found that the elimination protocol was the best way to go. So I just started embarking on my healing journey and also decided to start helping others through this journey because, all the research that I did and all the answers that I did not get from the doctors, I just want to be able to help people through this. So I just want to make you aware to make your mind-body health a priority. We'll talk about the connection between the mind and the body, but I just want you to know that it's serious. Without your health, you have nothing. And that was my story. And I know we all have our stories, but I just want to remind you not to let your story hold you back from moving forward. Do not be a victim of your story. If you are in that energy of being a victim, you will stay there and you will not move forward. You need to put your energy into a positive and learning environment and move on. Okay, so I can help you. I've been through it. I've done the research, like I've said. I'm still on the elimination diet myself. I am seeing benefits. My fatigue is better. My digestion is better, and I can help all of you. All right, so today we're going to cover the 3 out of the 12 tools to healing: foods and nutrition, the gut-brain relationship, and trusting your instincts. Okay, so what are some of the signs of food sensitivities? Of course, GI distress, but not only GI distress. Many other reactions can happen. You can have headaches, runny nose, acne, eczema, fatigue, mood disturbances, foggy thinking, cravings, anxiety, depression, decrease in physical fitness, and also weight gain. People don't think weight gain is a side effect of this, but I'm actually reading a book on it, and there's a lot to it. So don't ignore the red flags. Your body's telling you something. Definitely need to be aware of this. Okay, so a little bit about the difference between food sensitivity, food intolerance, and food allergy. So food sensitivity is a toxic reaction to a food. So it activates a different type of immune reaction called an innate immune system. Food intolerance is when you have a food that you introduce and you lack the enzyme to digest it. So like lactose intolerance, you lack the enzyme to digest lactose. Food allergy is a totally different category. That's when it's an emergency, and you may know people who have this. Okay, so the picture to the right, you see foreign material gets in, and we all have barriers. We have barriers in our digestive tract, which we're going to talk about, and also on our skin, and also a few more. So if this toxic material gets through the barrier, it can cause an innate immune reaction, which is your food sensitivity symptoms. If it goes beyond this and becomes more of an issue, it can go into an adaptive immunity response, which would be your autoimmune diseases. Okay, so most people who have food sensitivities also have leaky gut. This goes hand in hand. The symptoms of leaky gut are pretty much the same as symptoms with food sensitivities. So leaky gut, this is also called an increase in intestinal permeability. So what this means is the gut is a barrier, like we said before. So it can regulate the good and the bad from going in and out of your body. So it's kind of like your skin as a barrier. So this gut barrier is supposed to have tightly joined together pores. Well, with leaky gut, these tightly joined together pores are now larger pores. So things can get through there. So they're not really regulating what can go through and what cannot go through. So the toxins are getting through. The sensitivities then present in your body as inflammation. So these toxic chemicals are going through your gut barrier into your bloodstream, and then either in the brain, the skin, the thyroid, colon, adrenals, joints, or the sinuses. So it can present in all of these ways. It can present in just one way, and it doesn't always have to be a gut issue, or a gut symptom, I should say. Okay, so this inflammation that is happening in your body, what causes it? What causes the inflammation in your gut? So of course, foods that you're sensitive to. Stress is huge because stress releases cortisol, and cortisol directly causes inflammation. So also bad bacteria. A lot of times on this healing protocol, it's good to wipe out the bad bacteria, not so much with antibiotics, but with other supplements that are made to wipe out the bad bacteria. Just one thing about bacteria, they can grow so fast in your gut. It's a perfect environment for bacteria. If you have one bacteria in the morning that got introduced, by the end of the night, it can turn into millions of bacteria. So they can just run rampant. Also, supplements have fillers in them, and certain fillers can cause inflammation. So either together we can learn about these supplements with fillers. We don't have time to get into it now. Also, you can look them up on Google. So processed foods, that's kind of obvious. It's a foreign material that your body doesn't recognize, and therefore it causes inflammation. Okay, certain pesticides in foods, it's good to do organic, but if you can't afford all organic food, you can look up the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen so you know which foods have the most pesticides and which foods are safe in conventional form. Also, antibiotics. Sometimes, of course, it's good to take antibiotics if you have an infection and it's needed, but you can also get antibiotics through animal consumption. So I highly recommend spend the extra dollar to get the antibiotic-free and also steroid-free meats. All right, and also too many omega-6 fatty acids. So I think we've all heard about how omega-3s are good for decreasing inflammation. Well, if you have too many omega-6s, it can increase inflammation. And that would be your vegetable oils like canola oil, also too much corn in the diet, and too much poultry. So if you're eating chicken 3 times a day, every day, it may be too much. Chicken is wonderfully good for you, but if you're eating too much of it, then it can make that omega-6 fatty acids ratio go up too high and cause inflammation. Okay, so with that said, what do we do? What is the elimination diet? I'm going to talk about that. But first of all, I want you to know that if you suspect that you have something wrong, you want to definitely go to a physician and get some tests done. Rule out all different kinds of things. That's what I did to start. That would be your safe bet. And that way you can have peace of mind knowing that you're safe doing this healing protocol. Okay, and so what is the healing protocol? What is the elimination method? Basically, this is a scientific research, and it is the gold standard for healing food sensitivities. It removes all of the highly sensitive foods and high gut irritants. It removes these foods for a period of time, typically at least 3 weeks, but preferably until the end of your symptoms are gone. So you may be on it for 3 weeks, you may be on it for 3 months, or you may be on it longer than that, depending on you. So you just have to go with what your body's telling you. If you're still having digestive symptoms and systematic symptoms, then you may want to stay on this longer. Okay, and just a bit about testing. There's a test called the LCAT test, and this is a blood test, and it's pretty cool. They draw the blood at your house. 5 days later, you find out if you're sensitive to different foods, chemicals, additives, molds, even more things than that. They test up to 470 items. And in their lab, they introduce these substances to your white blood cells that they took in your blood. And you get a direct printout of what is safe for you to eat and what is not safe for you to eat. So this test is pretty cool. I offer this. It's great to do either in the beginning of an elimination diet or at the end, just to be very clear. You can also do this if it's not the right time for you to do an elimination diet right now. Maybe you don't have the time or the energy. So this would have been good for me after my graduation, but I didn't even hear about it. It's FDA approved, and it's been around for, I think, at least 30 years. But moving on, today we're talking about the elimination diet. Okay, so the most common foods that may need to be avoided in order to heal. First, we're going to talk about gluten, because we all know about gluten. It's kind of a fad these days, but what's really going on? So gluten is a large protein molecule, and this protein molecule is not digested properly, and it gets to your small intestine very largely intact. And this largely intact molecule can break through your gut barrier. It can break through, it can cause leaky gut. It can also make leaky gut worse. So gluten is definitely one you want to avoid. And once gluten gets into your bloodstream, then it travels throughout your body, and it directly causes inflammation in your body. It's not supposed to be through the gut barrier. And not only can it get through, but it kind of leaves that doorway open there in the gut for other foreign invaders to go through as well. Okay, grains in general. There is a doctor, his name is Dr. Davis. He's famous for writing Wheat Belly, and he basically puts it, and I'm paraphrasing this, but he says grain is a grass, and grass is made to be eaten by cows, and humans are not cows, and we can't digest it. So very basically put there. Also grains, I'm going to tie grains in with nuts and seeds and legumes and beans for the purpose that they all have phytic acid in them. And what phytic acid is, it's basically an anti-nutrient molecule. So without getting too in-depth on the molecule, it's basically just anti-nutrient, and that's it said. So it gets to your small intestine where you normally are absorbing the nutrients, and it binds nutrients to it. And then when you eliminate it in the bathroom, the nutrients are all with it. So they're not being absorbed into your body. So all the wonderful nutrients you'll see, on your bread container or your cereal box, those are not being absorbed properly into your body because of this phytic acid. So this is definitely a big reason that it needs to be avoided, and some people avoid grains for good, for life, because of this. I think that's all I want to say about that. Dairy is usually a highly sensitive food. Also, people have lactose intolerance, so it's good to avoid. Eggs are also avoided. The egg white is normally more sensitive in people, but the whole egg is avoided. Okay, soy. Soy is very processed these days. It in no way resembles traditional soy. It also has what's called phytoestrogens, which means fake estrogen, which your body, so when you're eating soy, your body, whether you're male or female, thinks you're eating a type of estrogen. And what it does is it can be harsh on your thyroid, and it also can increase your risk for breast cancer. So messing with your estrogen levels is not really the safe choice. So that's eliminated. We talked about nuts and seeds and the phytic acid. Also nuts, typically tree nuts, are very sensitive in people. So those are eliminated in this process. We talked about legumes and beans and the phytic acid. Also noting that peanuts are a legume, not a nut. Peanuts have a large protein molecule just like gluten does, and it gets to your gut and it's largely intact, just like gluten, and it breaks through that gut wall and gets in your bloodstream and causes inflammation. So sorry, all you peanut butter lovers. I was once a peanut butter lover, but it's a good one to avoid. Okay, and beans. We all know the little tune, beans, the magical fruit. But the reason behind this is beans are highly fermentable. So when they get to your gut, they are fermenting, and bad bacteria love fermenting. So they're just feeding off of this fermentation and having a heyday, and then what happens in return is you have gas. Okay, so moving on, nightshades. You may have not heard of nightshades, but you may have. Some of these vegetables, you see here are healthy for you. But the thing with nightshades, typically if you have digestive problems, immune problems, autoimmune, you want to avoid these because they have a natural pesticide that they release for their own protection. But they are not good for us. They can cause a lot of irritation in our gut, and they can cause inflammation. So it's good to avoid these. Okay, then just alcohol and coffee. Those are both gut irritants. Of course, alcohol is hard on the liver, and coffee directly releases cortisol, which, if you remember, cortisol is released during stress, and it causes inflammation. So the bottom line is we want to decrease inflammation. Okay, a little anatomy on the cow. I just couldn't help myself. It's the nurse in me. So back to the cow eating the grass and the grass being a grain, or vice versa. The cow has 4 chambers of its stomach, very large chambers. This is how they digest their grass so well. Humans have 1 chamber and very little chamber as it is. So we are not made to eat grass or eat grains for that matter. Okay, so just stop and think a second. What are your top not so healing foods? What kinds of foods do you know aren't good for you, but you eat and you suffer the consequences? It's just something good to think about. Okay, so I just told you everything you can't eat, and you're probably wanting to stab my eyes out, but now I'm going to tell you all the wonderful things you can eat. And like I said, I'm on this right now, and I'm totally satisfied with all my food. Okay, so vegetables galore. Go ahead on the vegetables. Just be mindful to exclude the nightshade vegetables that we talked about. Fruits are welcomed. Just be careful with the sugar content. Try to choose low sugar fruits. Sugar definitely can increase the bacteria in your gut and also cause other problems as well. Meats, just focus on high quality meats. We want to do antibiotic free, hormone free, grass fed for all beef and lamb. This is very important. Okay, fish and shellfish, wonderful benefits, as long as there's no allergy, of course. You get your high omega-3s, your natural iodine, and definitely want to look for wild. It's preferred, but it's okay either way. Bone broth, now that's wonderfully nourishing and healing. There's a lot on bone broth, so we can go into that in more depth. But just wanted to touch on that right now. Fats, don't be afraid of eating fat. Fat nourishes every cell in your body. There's all kinds of good fats out there. Just be mindful to stay away from the vegetable oils. And there's a lot of new research out here that says increase fat and decrease fat in your body. So there's a book that says eat fat to lose fat. So that low fat fad is no longer needed. Okay, herbs. Go crazy on the herbs. If you love the herbs, go for it. It adds wonderful flavor. Spices. Spices are very good. You just need to be very careful on additives and natural flavorings in spices. Those natural flavorings are really some weird hidden stuff that I don't want to put in my body, and you shouldn't either. And also MSG can be hidden in there, so be very careful. Pantry, you can load your pantry up with gluten-free flours. My favorite is cassava flour. Also have canned fish if you like fish, and many other things to stock up on. And then the occasional sweeteners, honey, blackstrap molasses, some dried fruit, and maple syrup. Just be mindful, again, these are sugars, and when I say occasional, I mean occasional. You may want to omit them altogether. I don't use any of these at the moment. I'm waiting until I'm healed a little bit more. Okay, so some benefits of excluding these foods until your symptoms resolve. Well, your body is not going to be working so hard to digest this toxin and the foreign materials and the processed food that it is going to have more room to give you some real energy to get through your day. And you're going to have more self-trust, not only with the foods that you're eating, but it kind of relates to your daily life. If you can trust the food you're putting into your body, you can trust more of your daily activities. So, of course, you'll have a clear mind. You'll be more emotionally stable. You will lose weight if you need to. You'll have better sleep, clearer skin. My favorite is you can move on with your life and not have to worry about your digestion and your fatigue. And I just want to say again, the time it takes for each individual to heal is different. At least 21 days, but it can take up to months until you've reached true healing. All right, so when you are ready to reintroduce foods back in, there is a systematic protocol. It is in phases and steps and tells you which food to introduce when and what intervals. So the goal here is to be like this girl in the picture on the right, slow and steady, very little at a time. Like I said, there's a protocol on it. You don't have to guess which food to eat in. I just want to say on this, you do want to wait every 3 days because there can be a delayed reaction. So say you introduce a egg yolk on Monday. Well, you may have a negative reaction on Wednesday. So you want to wait every 3 days to reintroduce a food back in. And just notice your symptoms. It may not be GI symptoms. So maybe you'll reintroduce a food back in, and that night you are not sleeping well, or you have a headache, or you're really irritable. Things like that. Those are all signs of a negative reaction. So just be very, very mindful. And when in doubt, leave it out. Listen to your body. Listen to what it's telling you. All right, so before you start this, you're definitely going to need to prepare. You need to know, first of all, what are your needs? Are you typically more able to digest proteins and animal meats, or do you think you may need some digestive enzymes or something like that to help you? Are you going to need more carbs? Maybe all your carbs was coming from grains, so now you're going to need to stock up on sweet potatoes and plantains and different things like that. Okay, so you want to do your shopping. You're going to be doing cooking throughout this process, so make some time for that. Get some recipes. I can definitely help you in those categories. And tell basically everyone who's going to be around you. They're all going to know because this is not your typical American diet. Tell your loved ones, your coworkers. Make sure when you go to dinner, you tell your waitress. You don't have to tell her your life story. Just tell her what you can't have. And everyone should be on board. And remind yourself and also tell others that it's not a fad diet. This is not a deprivation diet. It's not a new weight loss thing, and nor is it a lifelong diet. So it's just a healing phase of your life, and the point is to heal the gut barrier, and so you can move on and not have to worry about it anymore. Okay, so find the support and definitely sleep well. All right, I recommend a food journal. This is good to have during your entire elimination diet, but more importantly, in the reintroduction phase, you can write what food you introduced and any symptoms that you may be having with each one. So if you have a reaction, you want to avoid that food for a while. And if it's a safe food for you, you feel good on it, then that's a food that you can continue to be eating. Okay, so another thing to think about, what are your top healing foods for you? Everyone's different. One person's food is another person's poison. So just think, like, what nourishes you? What gives you real sustained energy? It's just something to think about. Okay, so the slip-ups and downs. These are no fun. But I had quite a few of them when I first started the elimination diet. It was very difficult for me. I had some cravings, and I didn't really have I didn't have a coach or any physician or anyone guiding me through this. I was doing it on my own. Of course, I had support from, my loved ones, but it was very difficult for me at first, and it's not good on the confidence when you mess up. So I just want to advise you to just pick yourself up and learn from it, promise to do better, and stay positive. Be honest with yourself. Do you need to take it in steps? Maybe you took it on too quickly. Maybe you just need to remove gluten for a while. And then maybe you'll eliminate alcohol and coffee. So take it in steps. Take it in steps, because the harder it is and the more stress it causes is just going to create more inflammation. So trust your instincts. Okay, then what are your biggest challenges? If you know this before going into it, then you will definitely be able to pinpoint any issues you may have. And if we're working together, we can figure out your challenges beforehand so it doesn't become such a challenge. We can find support, and we can find the solution during this phase. Okay, and then just again to remind you, everyone's different. There's no one road to take. So this is a scientific protocol. It's the gold standard, and there's a lot to it, but everyone's different. So, you may be able to do better without supplements, and the next person may need supplements, and just etc. Okay, so moving on to the gut-brain connection. This is super interesting to me, and I'll probably do an entire webinar just on this next. But basically put, a healthy gut is a healthy brain, and vice versa. Same goes with inflammation. If you have inflammation in the gut, you will have inflammation in the brain. And that is because of the vagus nerve. So the vagus nerve stems out of the brain, and it directly goes into many different organs, but today we're going to talk about the digestive tract. So it has over 100 million nerve cells in the digestive tract alone. Over 100 million. So this is a two-way street, going back and forth constantly. So this is why if you have inflammation in one area, it's going to cause inflammation in the other area, and vice versa. If you eat something that you don't think you were supposed to eat, and now you're feeling guilty and not so good about yourself, well, that food is not going to be digested very well. It's not going to be nourishing for you if you think it's not going to be nourishing for you, because you're basically telling your digestive tract that food is not good for you, and now your digestive tract is going to treat it accordingly. So something to think about. Also, I'm sure you've all heard of serotonin, which is the happy chemical in your brain. Well, what a lot of people don't realize is that over 90% of serotonin is made in the gut. So if your gut is not functioning properly, then over 90% of this happy chemical is not being made at all. And you may have some symptoms of depression. So, I think physicians should recommend the elimination diet before, handing out antidepressants, but that's just my opinion. Also, there is a way to activate the vagus nerve yourself. You can sing or hum. Singing a tune will directly stimulate this nerve, and if it's firing properly, it will help you out, help your digestion. So sing a tune every day, and your mind body will thank you. All right, so we have to treat this both together. We cannot just treat the gut through diet. We have to also treat the brain, because it's constantly talking to each other, constantly. So what fuels the brain? First of all, we want to increase the blood flow in the brain and also in the belly. So of course, exercise, yoga, specifically inversions for yoga. Deep belly breathing will help as well. You can also take supplements, ginkgo or feverfew are two good herbs to increase blood flow. You also want to, of course, decrease inflammation. So I think we've all heard of turmeric, the supplement. You can take that to decrease inflammation. Also, have you heard of bioflavonoids? Those are in berries. So have a handful of berries a day. There's also supplements as well for bioflavonoids. Okay, and then balancing your neurotransmitters. These are, which I mentioned before, like your serotonin. So serotonin is your happy chemical. Also, dopamine is a happy chemical. One that's associated with anxiety is GABA. So if you have low GABA, you may have high anxiety. And I can relate to that because the worse my digestive tract got, the more anxiety I had, and I knew it was connected. So another important one is acetylcholine. So this, if it's low, can cause inflammation in the brain and can increase the risk for Alzheimer's disease. So those are very important neurotransmitters. They can be balanced by healing the gut and the brain together. There's a lot of assessment forms out there that kind of help you figure out if your neurotransmitters are balanced, and there's also supplements that can get them back in range. Okay, so this is just reminding you to eat for your brain health. All right, a little bit on trusting your instincts. I kind of went over it throughout the webinar a little bit, but I'm going to brush on it again. Number one, know yourself. If you don't know yourself, then you're not going to be able to trust yourself. And you're probably not going to be able to trust other people as well. So knowing yourself is crucial to being able to trust your instincts. And I would suggest having a spiritual practice to get to know yourself if you are unsure or if you want to know yourself more. Some examples of a spiritual practice are here. Doesn't have to be just going to church. It can be dance, meditation, music, art, journaling, cooking, yoga, gardening, being in nature, exercising, and so on. So find something that lights you up, that grounds you, makes you feel connected to yourself, that calms you but energizes you, that perfect medium feeling. You can change your practice over time. You can pick a few. You can just stick with one. So I definitely recommend that if you don't already have one. And this picture to the right is a brain before and after 10-minute meditation. So it's pretty remarkable that after just 10 minutes, the inflammation has decreased considerably. So it's definitely something to try. Okay, so what can you achieve with your health? It's not about just being healthy. It's about what can you do after you're healthy. I mean, it's endless of the things you can do with your health. Okay, and just to recap, we went over foods and nutrition. We went over the gut-brain relationship and trusting your instincts. I wanted to thank